Next. You see, MRAs are concerned with black and white lines of thinking and don't see that things aren't that simple. They still perceive the world as just being cisgender men and women, in the 1950s era where people have specific roles that cannot be deviated from. And here we have another straw man. Or maybe we should call it what it is, an outright lie. And she even contradicts this statement earlier in the interview. If we want to go back to the 1950s, where women are stay-at-home moms, and fathers are the providers, then why are we fighting against the family court system that supports those gender roles? You know, those same gender roles supported by feminist groups like now. Amazing. In this one statement about the 1950s she has proven that not only does she know nothing about the men's rights movement, but that she is entirely battling against straw men. Next. And I don't see any MRAs leading the fight for equal rights when it comes to neurodiversity. Actually, we routinely talk about boys falling behind in the classroom, due to having different learning styles and needs, and essentially being treated like defective girls. Not to mention being drugged because their learning style and behavior is different from that of girls. Next. In fact, they typically are quick to utilize ableist language when debating. What exactly is ableist language? Let's look it up. And here is a list of ableist language. Terms like stupid, crazy, and nuts are not only in common use, but are routinely used by feminists. For example, let's look at feminist website, Jezebel. I remember having a conversation with a workmate long ago. I was in my 20s at the time, and he was in his late 50s. And somehow the topic of swearing came up. He told me that when he was a boy, his mother had taught him that weak-minded people use swear words, as there are so many other words to use instead. I replied that there are two possibilities here. The first is that these other words have the exact same meaning as the swear words they replace. In which case, what's the point? Is stepping in dog poo better than stepping in dog shit? Is it easier to scrape off your shoe? Does it smell less? If the words mean the exact same thing, then it's illogical to okay one, while condemning the other. The other possibility though, is that the replacement words have a different meaning than the swear words. Maybe having a crappy day isn't as bad as having a shitty day, or a fucking shit day. If different words describe different degrees of something, then they are all valid. Ultimately, policing language is futile. If a word becomes blacklisted, and is shunned by society, people will just replace it with a new one, which will have the same meaning. And of course sometimes perfectly innocent words become bad words over time. For example, let's look at the Spastic Society. And no, the Spastic Society is not a group of trolls on 4chan. Well, not yet anyway, maybe after watching this video. But up until 1994, the charity now known as Scope was then known as the Spastic Society. The term, spastic, in its medical use is not, or at least should not, be an offensive term. But over time it developed as a slur, possibly due to the Spastic Society publicizing their cause. It's similar with the word retard, which in its most simplistic and proper definition means 1. To make slow, delay the development or progress of an action, process, etc. Hinder or impede. 2. To be delayed. 3. A slowing down, diminution, or hindrance, as in a machine. If you think about it, fire retardant slows down the spreading of a fire. And one of the few things I remember from your 8th Italian class, in high school, is the phrase, Dario è sempre in ritardo, which translated means, Dario is always late. I'm guessing the Avanti Avanti book would be banned these days, due to political correctness. And to be honest, it should be banned, but not due to some PC paranoia, but simply because it was shit. Seriously, the only Italian it taught me was how to say some guy called Dario is always late, and I don't even know anyone called Dario. But the point here is, words have context, and often how offensive a word is deemed, comes down to its context, and often who is using it. For example,
well, it is a word that evokes many emotions in people. It's a derogatory racial remark that has divided people for many years.
And a Jefferson County high school teacher has now received the longest suspension on record for calling a student the N-word. WHAS 11's defender Renee Murphy investigates what happened and why in this story you'll only see on 11.
Valley Traditional High School is in the middle of a racial controversy right now. A teacher used the N-word towards a student. The word is only 6 letters long, but the impact is far-reaching. And we do want to warn you that some of the language in this story is strong, and it may offend you, it may offend some other people. But since the story is not just about the N-word, it's also about the teacher's intent and definition of the word, we have decided to leave it in the story for you to decide.
And what did he say specifically to you?
Sit down, nigga.
Keyshawn Chambers is a freshman at Valley High School, a Boy Scout, a football player, a member of the ROTC, an honor roll student. He was hanging around his teacher's classroom door in December. The teacher told him to sit down, and the teacher says that Keyshawn used the N-word first.
And I just kind of was stunned a second. Well, then get away from the door, nigga. And I repeated the same insult because that's sort of what I've been trained to do.
The school district says that is not what they trained English teacher Paul Dawson to do.
He tried to say I said it, and I didn't say it, and no one else in the class knows that I said it because I didn't.
Documents from the school investigation show that several of the students interviewed from Valley did not hear Keyshawn say the N-word first. Dawson says that students use the slang version of the N-word at Valley High School all the time. He says N-I-G-G-E-R is a racial slur, but says that students use N-I-G-G-A as often as they'd say dude or hey man. And Dawson says as much as he does not like the word, he still used the slang version to feel more comfortable with black students.
Why is this word used so frequently? I just don't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. I need help. Yes, I use nigga. I've used it. I admit it. I put the H on it to emphasize it's nigga. That, you know, nigga this, nigga please, nigga. Can you lend a nigga a pencil?
What kind of example are you setting for your students if you use a word that you don't want them to use?
Upon reflection, that's not good.
Dawson was suspended for 10 days without pay from January 9th to January 23rd, and he has to go to diversity training. He says that he's learned from this experience and hopes that others think twice before using the N-word.
I will never say any form of nigga. I'm cured of that.
Paul Dawson says that he is sorry for the way things were handled, but Keyshawn says that he is not looking for any apologies.
Apologizing is going to change the fact that it happened and he's not been punished.
And punishment in your mind is?
Him not having his job anymore.
Paul Dawson says that he wants there to be a steadfast policy in Jefferson County Public Schools against people using the N-word. Right now, when it is brought up, it's dealt with on a case-by-case basis with the district. And we should mention that Keyshawn is still in Paul Dawson's classroom. Dawson has been with the district for 20 years, and Keyshawn is still in that classroom because Dawson is an honors English teacher. There are very few honors English classes, so he is still with him.
Well, now he was suspended for a while, but is he back teaching?
He is back teaching now, and he still does have his job. But this is not the first time that Paul Dawson has been suspended from Jefferson County Public Schools. Coming up at 5:30, we'll tell you what happened before. We'll tell you about his plan to appeal the suspension and why the district says that he should keep his job.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we have...
Just a word of advice to any white teachers out there. It's probably not appropriate, nor a good idea, to use either version of that word. In fact, any teacher, of any racial background, shouldn't be using any type of racial slurs, full stop. But he did have a point. The word has two different contextual meanings, depending on who is using it, and how they are using it. And if anyone thinks he was using it in a contextually appropriate way, I've got some swampland to sell you, right after we finalize our deal over the Brooklyn Bridge. And although I can understand words like retard, or spastic, in the context of a slur being offensive, are we really going to go so far as to police words like crazy, or stupid, which are in such common use, by such a vast number of people, that trying to police such words would be, well, such an attempt would be crazy and stupid. And how exactly are we meant to describe someone's stupid idea, or crazy theory, or idiotic notion? But of course using these types of forbidden words only counts when we do it. Apparently it's perfectly okay for our opposition to use these words against us. I wonder if the word, hypocrite, is on the forbidden list yet? Next. In fact, they typically are quick to utilize ableist language when debating, if you even want to dub their polemics that. Feminists either in person or on the web and frequently are condescending when doing so. So I'd hardly call them egalitarian activists. Dare I point out again, 10 retarded things said by men's rights activists. Once again, this is a common strategy used by feminists. They point out a behavior which is done by both sides, but try to claim the high ground by claiming that only the other side does it. They seriously need to look up the meaning of the word hypocrite, before the Ministry of Free Thought declares it a hate crime. But only in the context of using it against a feminist, of course. Next. Their behavior, especially when they troll en masse, illustrates a bit of an unapproachable, militant, and off-putting stereotype for men, which makes it that much more difficult for those who are non-cishet men to contribute to conversations involving hot-button issues like gender, gender equality, and gender-based violence. People have this idea that if you discuss something of this sort with a man on the internet, it's just going to turn into a war. You mean something like this?
This is what men's rights look like!